I recently told someone I was doing a video about periods and how they're misunderstood, and she looked very confused. It's 2026. Do people still not understand periods? Well,
can you pee with a tampon? I don't think it's recommended.
Why are there different types of tampons?
Different sizes of vaginal cavities.
About how many tampons would one use for their period on average?
1 or 2?
What is a period?
A cycle where women get very moody. That's it. That's all it is.
That's all that happens?
Women get very moody.
the sad fact is, periods are still misunderstood. Let's fix that. Hello and welcome. My name's Shelby, and on this channel I try to explain misunderstood topics using research, analysis, and a variety of perspectives. So if that sounds interesting to you, please keep watching and check out some other videos on my channel.
Well, my whole childhood, I kept hearing about the curse. How when I was 13, I was going to get the curse. Oh, I was absolutely terrified. The year of my 13th birthday, I slept with the lights on all year. I was a wreck. But the year went by and no curse. Then the next year went by, no curse. Then finally, when I was 15, Mama took me to the doctor because I still didn't have the curse. And he said, "Blanche, do you mean to tell me you still don't have your period?" And I said, "Well, of course I have my period, you fool. I'm not a child. I've had my period almost 2 years. It's the curse I don't have."
Periods, menstruation, menses, Aunt Flo, time of the month, the curse. All slang terms for an often shamed but perfectly normal and natural bodily function for roughly half of the population of Earth. Normally I cover the myths a little bit later in the video, but I gotta start with a myth this time because it's gonna address how I cover the topic. So this myth has two parts. 1, all women get their periods, and 2, only women get their periods. Both wrong. The fact is, not all women have periods, and not all people who have periods are women. There are lots of women who do not get their periods. There are young women who haven't reached puberty yet. There are older women who are going through menopause. There are people who don't get it because of medical conditions, because of birth control, because of procedures that they've had. There are lots of reasons. The other side of that coin is the fact that there are a lot of non-women who get their period. Trans men, non-binary people, genderqueer people, intersex people. All these people are valid. Their gender is whatever they say it is, but they may or may not get their period. So to be respectful of everybody, I'm going to be using both non-gendered and gendered language. I'll use non-gendered language sometimes, things like people who menstruate, people who get their period, because there are lots of non-women. A trans man is no less of a man just because he gets his period. Just like a trans woman is no less of a woman because she doesn't get her period. I will also be using some gendered language because whether they get their period or not, periods affect, in my opinion, pretty much all women. Whether it's being shamed for getting your period, being shamed for not getting your period, being judged for how you deal with your period, or simply being asked if you're on your period whenever you express an emotion.
When we get mad, you always ask us if we're on our periods.
I have to know whether you're serious or not.
But the simple and scientific fact is that not all women get periods, and not all people who get periods are women. We're going to start with a simple anatomy lesson, because lots of people, even women, do not understand what we have down there.
I don't see why you need the funnel. Like, can't you just put the tube up in?
No, because that's not where the pee comes out.
Yeah, I do. Out the big hole.
Yeah, there's a different hole.
For pee? What?
This is the female reproductive system. Even if you're a woman, yours may not look like this. Not everyone is built the same. So if your parts do not look like this, or if you're missing some of these parts, or if you have extra parts, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. This is the vagina. I'll note that the vagina is an internal canal, an internal tunnel. A lot of people think everything we got down here is the vagina. Incorrect. It's where you have any sort of vaginal intercourse, it's where babies come out of, and it's where blood comes out of during your period. Note, it is not where you pee out of. Your pee comes from a separate hole, the urethra. This is the cervix. It keeps things in and out. So sperm, blood, tampons, babies, it lets things in that need to come in, and it keeps things out that needs to stay out. This is the uterus, a hollow organ that, if you get pregnant, will hold the baby. These are the ovaries. They are glands that produce eggs and those fun hormones. And these are fallopian tubes. These are what the eggs use to travel from the ovaries to the uterus. So what is a period? The dictionary definition is a flow of blood and other material from the lining of the uterus, usually occurring at intervals of about 28 days from puberty until menopause, except during pregnancy, and typically lasting for a few days. Now that is a very general definition. There's a lot of stuff in there that's squiggly wiggly. Maybe your cycle is 28 days, maybe it's more, maybe it's less. So this is a very, very basic overview of the menstrual cycle. So first we have the follicular phase. Hormones cause multiple eggs to develop in your ovaries, and the most dominant egg survives. The rest die off. Next is the ovulatory phase. The most dominant egg, that survivor of the fittest, is released and it moves into the fallopian tube. Next is the luteal phase. The uterus gets busy preparing for a possible baby and creates a rich lining full of blood and other gunk. If the egg meets a sperm that it likes, it gets fertilized, goes to the uterus, and eventually turns into a fetus. If the egg is not fertilized, it either doesn't like any of the sperm it sees or there is no sperm, it goes to the uterus and dissolves. If there's no fertilized egg, no eventual baby, all that healthy, nourishing uterine lining sheds, and that is your period. That is the blood and other gunk that comes out of your vagina. So essentially, the uterus is a very passive-aggressive organ. If you give it a fertilized egg to grow into a baby, it will take such good care of that baby. It will nourish it. It will do its best to bring it to fruition. If you don't give it a baby, it will go, fine, I spent weeks building all this nourishment, all this healthy lining, but I guess you don't need it, so I guess I'll get rid of it. And then it squeezes itself and gives you cramps and makes you bleed out of your vagina. These are some of the fun symptoms that you might have during your period. You might experience all of these, you might experience a few of these, and if you're truly blessed, you will experience none of these. The biggest thing about these symptoms is that they shouldn't be interrupting your life. Yes, it is totally normal to not feel great a few days a month on your period, but if you're regularly having to miss work or miss school or change social plans because of pain and discomfort and heavy bleeding and all that, you should see a doctor. Your period should be annoying, but it should not be interrupting your life that much. As long as people have been able to create new people, periods have existed. Historically, women have used pretty much whatever absorbent material they had around to deal with their period. In ancient Egypt, this was papyrus. In ancient Rome, it was wool or a sea sponge. In Japan, it was flax. And in North America, it may have been animal hide or moss. Again, whatever they had lying around. Records are not great on any of this. Generally, women's hygiene was not particularly interesting to historians. But in general, what most women used throughout history was some version of a rag, some sort of absorbent cloth or textile that they stuffed up in there or put in their underwear or tied around them or pinned to their clothes or whatever else they could figure out to do. These days, we have a few more options. The first option for dealing with blood from your period is to free bleed. To use no products and simply bleed into your underwear, your clothes, a towel, sheets, whatever you're sitting or laying on. Now, to free bleed by choice is a privilege. There's a lot of women in the world who are free bleeding not by their choice, but to be able to do it by choice and stay hygienic and clean is a privilege, and a lot of people do it. It's going to depend a lot on your personal schedule, your responsibilities, your flow rate, your hygiene, your comfort, all that stuff. But in general, it is a perfectly fine thing to do if you can stay hygienic and make sure that you don't stay in moist clothes or underwear too long. Next, we have pads. To this day, one of the most common ways that people deal with their periods. We have disposable pads, reusable pads, panty liners, which are for lighter days or discharge, pads with wings. A quick note, and something that non-period having folks tend to be confused about. The pad has an adhesive side, a sticky side. That part sticks to your underwear, not the skin. Do not stick a pad to your skin. Back in the 1800s, their version of pads was sanitary belts, which allowed you to keep, again, a rag or cloth underneath you to catch all that blood. They do not look comfortable. And in 1969, we got our first adhesive pad. And while there are lots of different types, lots of different styles, lots of different brands, the technology really hasn't changed. The other most popular method, aside from pads, is tampons. The modern tampon was first patented in 1933. Gertrude Tendrick bought that patent and went on to create a very successful company called Tampax. There were safety concerns through the years about tampons, particularly due to toxic shock syndrome, and then to reduce carcinogens that they were using in the tampons. But modern tampons are perfectly safe. Toxic shock syndrome is real, but it is a very rare side effect of a bacterial infection. Make sure you're changing your tampon every 4 to 8 hours and you use the lowest absorbency possible. Do not reuse your tampons and try and stay away from any ones that have fragrances. We've got tampons with no applicators, cardboard applicators, plastic applicators. We've got tampons made of cotton, rayon, a mix of those too. Lots of options. Another misconception by people who don't have periods or people who don't use tampons is that the different sizes available have nothing to do with the size of your vaginal canal. It's based on absorbency, so you're going to choose your tampon based on how heavy your flow is. And again, you want to use the lowest absorbency possible just to make sure you stay nice and hygienic down there. Another method that's becoming really popular in the last few years are menstrual cups or menstrual discs. We've actually had menstrual cups as early as 1987, but it's only been in the last few years that they've become really popular. The Moon Cup in 2001 was the first one made of silicone, and then the Diva Cup came out in 2003, and that one really exploded the popularity. Now we have all different sorts of materials and shapes and sizes and colors, and whatever you're going to be most comfortable with, there is something for you. Another method that's become popular in really just the last 10 years or so is period underwear. Now, bleeding into your clothes or your underwear is not new. People have been doing that all through history. But having specific super absorbent underwear designed for your period is somewhat new. The first patent came out in 1988, but it really didn't get popular until Thinx came out in like the 2010s. And just like menstrual cups, we now have all different brands, all different sizes, all different materials. There are other methods to deal with your period, like sponges, which are mostly banned in the US, but are used around the world. But the ones I covered are most popular, the ones that are going to be most readily available, and the ones that you're going to see on the shelves in your local store. You can't get pregnant on your period. Myth. Now, is it likely? No. But is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Please take precautions if you don't want to get pregnant. It has to do with the length of your cycle and the regularity of your cycle and when you ovulate, and you don't always ovulate at the same time, and it's the lifespan of the sperm and the sperm itself, and there's a lot of different factors. So it's not likely for you to get pregnant on your period, but you still can. This is a weird one. It's like an old wives' tale. For a long time, there's been this idea floating around that you shouldn't exercise on your period, or you shouldn't swim on your period, or run on your period, or whatever. That's weird and dumb. I really tried to find out where this myth came from, because a lot of times myths will be just based on like one random study or one stupid article or something. Couldn't figure out where this one came from, but it is false. You can do just about everything you normally do while you're on your period. And exercise, especially if you already regularly exercise, can actually help with some of the symptoms like cramping and back pain. It can also help with some of the hormonal weirdness you might feel during your period, because when you exercise, things like cortisol or endorphins or dopamine are released, and those things also might help with some hormonal regulation. As usual, exercise safely, listen to your body. If you have concerns, talk to a medical professional, but you should on your period be able to do all your normal activities, including exercise. And no, if you're on your period and you're swimming in the ocean, you will not attract sharks. Our final myth is that period pain is normal. This is such a weird topic because it's different for everyone. Some people say you shouldn't feel any pain or discomfort on your period. That's not true. You might feel some. And some people, like some of the doctors that I've been to in my life, say, well, just the luck of the dice. You have a period that causes a lot of pain, that causes a lot of interruptions in your life, that causes you to miss work and school and social functions. And the fact is, neither of those two opposites are correct. Some mild pain might be normal for you. Some discomfort is probably normal for you, but your period should not be getting in the way of your life.
Myth number 4, periods are supposed to be painful. This one drives me absolutely bonkers because I hear people say it actually both ways. Periods are supposed to hurt or periods are supposed to not have any pain associated with them at all. And it's both nonsense. Some people don't have cramping and that's okay. Some people have some cramping and that's okay. What's not okay is if you have pain or cramping during your cycle or any other symptom during your cycle that keeps you from living your normal day-to-day life and doing the activities that you want to do.
This is Mama Dr. Jones. I have her channel listed below in the description box. She's awesome. She is a board-certified OBGYN. She makes educational content and she's very informed, very relatable, and gives really, really good information. So if your period is interrupting your life, if it's causing you to miss work or school, you should see a doctor. If you have any major changes in your period for good or bad, see a doctor. Little bit of story time. I am a woman who currently does not have her period because I had a hysterectomy. Now, I know for some people a hysterectomy can be a really traumatic experience. For me, it was great. I wanted it. I don't want to have kids, and I was getting really, really severe symptoms and medical issues from having my period. I went to doctors for years and they told me that my heavy bleeding was normal. And I was told that my high levels of pain causing me to miss work and school were normal. Some women's periods are just worse than others. But no, that's not how it should be. I was lucky enough to find a doctor who allowed me to have a hysterectomy, as sad as that is. Someone did have to allow me to have this procedure, and it was what was best for me. And I'm doing much better now. It is a known fact that women's pain is not taken as seriously as men's pain, and that includes period pain. A lot of doctors just assume, yep, periods are miserable, it is what it is, and will not look into it more and will not explore all the options you have available to you. So, if you're having severe symptoms, and if you have access to healthcare, and if you're able to do this, please try and keep looking for doctors until you find one that will listen to you. I know that not everyone can do that, but if you can, please keep trying. So, who's affected by periods? And the fact is, about half the population. It's something that most women, amongst other people, will experience. Sadly, in this year, 2026, there is still a huge social stigma around periods, and it's just obnoxious. Periods are natural. They are often not controllable. They are not dirty. They are not toxic. That's another thing. Periods are not toxins leaving your body. That's dumb. You have organs that take care of your toxins for you. Your period doesn't need to exist to do that. And even though there is social stigma and all this bullshit in 2026, we have come a long way, and kind of recently. The 80s and the early 90s were huge as far as normalizing talking about periods and making it no longer this like secret or dirty or shameful thing. In 1985, we had this.
Does your life change once a month because of your period?
Yes, that was a pre-Friends Courtney Cox, and she was the first person to say the word period on American television in that Tampax commercial. That same year, in 1985, Golden Girls premiered. I played a clip from Golden Girls earlier. I love Golden Girls. And they talked about a ton of taboo or shameful topics that shouldn't be shameful or taboo, like menopause and periods and pregnancy and tons of other normal things. In 1990, we had an episode of The Cosby Show where one of the kids gets her period, and for a lot of people this was a huge turning point because this was one of the first times we've seen a family deal with a daughter getting her first period and it being a normal, natural, positive, even celebratory thing.
There I was sitting in class while the teacher was talking about punctuation and I was starting my period. Do you know how embarrassing that was?
I think I do. And so does every other woman in the world. In my day, it was referred to as the horror. You see, women were expected to be very dainty and discreet. So what did? They gave us pads the size of mattresses. And during that very special time of the month, when you wanted to go out at night, you couldn't carry a little dainty clutch bag. Oh, no, no, no. You had to carry an overnight bag.
Those were the bad old days, huh, Mom?
Those were the bad old days. But we've come a long way since then. And Rudy, you know, it's very natural, darling. It's been going on since the beginning of time.
Now, I did cut that clip off. The next line is that having a period is what makes you a woman. And we all know that that's not true. That's an outdated idea. Not having a period doesn't make you any less of a woman. And if you are not a woman, if you are a trans man, non-binary, etc., and you get a period, it doesn't negate your gender identity at all. Aside from the social stigma that we still haven't fully gotten rid of, another thing that we still really struggle with both in the US and around the world is access to period products, pads, tampons, menstrual cups, etc., etc. Here in the US, in many states, items that are considered basic necessities are not taxed or taxed at a lower level. Things like basic groceries, medicine, even toilet paper. Those things may not be taxed or may be taxed lower. But there are a lot of states that still charge full sales tax on period products, despite the fact that, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, they should be considered necessary hygiene items. And of course, there are a lot of barriers to being able to hygienically take care of your period, whether that's hygienically free bleeding, getting tampons, pads, having enough to change them regularly. One of the most vulnerable populations of people who get periods are those who are incarcerated, people in jails, prisons, or detention centers. The Prison Policy Initiative looked into this issue and did a big study on it, and they talked to a lot of people who had been incarcerated who experienced their periods, and they got some truly heartbreaking feedback. This is from someone who just goes by LB. Says, you see women being forced to free bleed because they don't have access to anything else, but then they get told that they're not being hygienic and they get put on lock, disciplinary housing, because they're free bleeding. It is horrifically very common for people who get their periods in prison to not be given access to hygiene and not be given access to products to be able to properly take care of it, and then get punished for not being able to take care of it. This quote is from a woman named Evelyn. Said, I had a fibroid on my uterus, so I had a lot of bleeding, but the pads are so cheap and they don't absorb well. I would go through 3 of them a night and still bleed through my clothes onto my sheets. It was so embarrassing and shameful. I would get up early and wash myself, my clothes, and my sheets, even though this was against the rules. I would get in trouble, but I couldn't just stay with my clothes and sheets like that. It made me feel less than human, let alone a woman. Even though we are in prison, we're still women. Even though they're in prison, they're still people. They deserve access to basic hygiene. There are some words in this next quote that I probably can't say on YouTube, so I'm going to put it up on the screen. It's a letter from the Acting Assistant Attorney General of Alabama to the Governor of Alabama, talking about some of the horrific repercussions of not providing enough basic hygiene supplies in prison. We do seem to be going in the right direction, although the current federal government is trying desperately to stop that, but period products are being made more available for free in more public spaces. Here are all the states in blue that have committed to making menstrual products free for students in public schools. Hopefully, that list will keep growing. In honor of today's topic, I've made a donation to the Alliance for Period Supplies. They are a national organization that partners with local organizations and local charities to help distribute and provide access to period supplies for people who need them but maybe don't have access to them. It's a really great organization. I have their website below if you want to take a look. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And remember, this was a short overview of the topic, not a deep dive. Please comment below with your experience about periods, how you've dealt with it, what it's done to you, if you were able to find someone in healthcare who could help you. I would love to keep learning, and I want to hear from as many perspectives as possible. So please leave a comment below. And if you liked this video, please consider subscribing to this channel and watching some of my others. I post a new video every week, and I hope to see you in the next one.